Today's Tech Wednesday session is about tips and tricks to get the most out of your iPad. If you go to bit.ly/Mr. Sear, that kind of goes to my homepage area where I have links, resources, and archive recordings of this and other sessions. So if you go onto that website, let me go ahead and type it in right here. So bit.ly/Mr. Sear brings you to this website. And then if you go to a teacher, I've got a bunch of links there. So get tech help, see what my schedule's like. If you need to schedule me for something, you can kind of check ahead and see what I have available. I don't have anything under news, but maybe eventually. And then access tech PD and training. That brings you to a lot of what I have going on where I have my Tech Wednesday links. I have links to my previous trainings, like the ones I did in June. So you can get those. And then if you need to contact me for anything, go right ahead. We're going to talk about home screen configuration. So if I bring up my iPad screen and hopefully, oh, it hasn't frozen. It's like the first time I've done this where it hasn't been frozen. So if you notice that on my home screen, I've kind of, it's at least for me, it's a little bit more manageable. This is actually how similar to what the student devices are going to look like. But when we push apps out onto the iPads, unless we also configure how the apps are going to appear on the screen, you kind of just get rows and rows and columns of apps, and we don't really have any control over where they show up. So we could have organized these devices to be similar to the student devices. The only problem with that is that if we set a home screen configuration layout, so we decide to put certain apps in certain folders and stuff like that, you can't move them afterwards. So if you wanted to reorganize your layout somehow, if we had anything configured, it wouldn't let you. So I thought it would be better to kind of give you that opportunity to organize things however works best for you. And so I kind of have a little bit of a layout where I sort of have like my home screen of the apps that I'm mostly going to use. And then I created one that was as similar as possible to the student devices. So if I want to make tutorial videos for them or something like that, I can kind of emulate what that's going to look like. So that's how I do it. So as far as moving stuff around, all you really need to do is what's called a long press. And we're going to talk a lot about long presses later on and some of the things you can do with those. But that just means that you're pressing on something on the screen and holding it, usually for about a second. And you can see that I just long pressed. Actually, you can't see. But I long pressed on the MS-8052 bookmark. And you'll see that a little menu pops up. And if I wanted to move stuff around, I can just go edit home screen. And actually, if I press down longer than a second, actually I didn't want to tap, but if I hold it down long enough, then it will go into edit screen layout mode anyway. And so the way you know that you can start to move stuff around is that the app icons start to wiggle and you start to see these little X's. Which, by the way, so students are not able to move stuff around, and the X's won't show up because they've been set to not uninstall any apps. So if a student tries telling you that they lost the Seesaw app on their iPad, don't believe them, because they can't do anything with it. So, and I spent too much time talking, so it went out of that mode. So we'll pop it back up again. So at this point, once it's in the edit mode, I can start to move stuff around. So if I wanted to reorder the apps, let me pull up so you can kind of see what I'm doing. I can just kind of press and hold, and then it's like a click and drag, except it's a press and drag. And you can see that I can take this Nuia app and I can move it around into different places. Oh, I didn't want to show you that part yet. But that's okay. Let's get that out of there. All right. So you can move stuff around in any order. You can also move stuff around between screens. So I have plenty of space on here. So if I wanted to move the clock app over a screen, I could do that. I could also create a new screen. So this is the last screen that I had. So if I wanted to make a new one, I could just drag it over. My arm's in the way. I'm sorry about that. Let me move that. And then it creates another screen window for me, or I can just drag it back. So um, there's a lot of different possibilities in terms of how you want to organize stuff on here. It's really up to what works best for you, I think. But that's how you do it. So the other thing that you did see really quickly um, for hold on a second. So the other thing that you saw really quickly for a second there was that you can create folders, and you see that I have these folders right here, and it's pretty simple. It just means that if you move an app and you kind of place it on top of another app, it will make a folder for that app. So if I go ahead and move the clock app again, we're going to go edit home screen, and I'm going to place it on top, and you'll kind of see if you hold it for long enough, it'll blink, and you'll get a sense that it's about to create a folder. And then why is it trying to move it over one? And I can drop it in, and now I have a folder that has two apps in it. I have the Nuia app and I have the clock app. Same thing, I can create additional screens there. I don't think there's a limit for how many apps you can put in a folder, but obviously only so many are going to show up in one space. So I try not to have too many apps in a folder so that people aren't dragging back and forth and trying to find stuff. The whole reason for creating folders is to put things in a place where you're not flipping through 5 different screens and getting lost. You can also name these folders as well. So it will kind of just give it a generic name, and I think it just pulls from whatever category of app that it's in the App Store. So this one was utilities, and I can just, let's do this again. So I'm talking too much. And if I just hit that X right in the utilities text box, now I can give it a name. So my keyboard's up, so I could call this, you can call it testing stuff, because maybe I need the Nuia app and I need a timer at the same time, who knows. But you've got lots of options. And then if you move something into a folder by accident, all you need to do is just press and hold on it. And then if you just move it anywhere outside of where the folder space is, then it will take care of it. And then I'll also need to move the Nuia app. I think once you give it a name, even if there's only one app left, it will stay in there until you pull it out. So, and then obviously if there's no apps, then the folder goes away. So I'm going to hit done because I'm done with configuring my home screen for now. So the next things we're going to talk about are centers, gestures, clips, and shortcuts. And I kind of bunched all those together because a lot of them are related in one way or another. So we've already talked a little bit about long pressing, which is basically just holding down on an app icon. So obviously one of the things that you can do with a long press is you can go into your home screen layout and move stuff around. I'll also hold it long enough so you can also see that there's a share app function and a delete app function as well, so that you have those that you can choose as well. But on certain apps, there's some additional functionality that the developers have built into those apps based on the long presses. So I wanted to highlight a couple of my favorites because you might find them handy as well. So the Gmail app is an example. If I long press on the Gmail app, you'll notice that I have an additional option here. It says compose. So I can create a new email right from the home screen just by going and long pressing and then hitting compose, and then it pops it right into that compose window for me so I can send an email. Just pretty cool. And if I don't want to do that, then I just exit out of it. Another one is Google Calendar, which has something similar. So if I long press on that, you'll see that I can add an event to my calendar. I can add a reminder or a goal, or I don't really use the out of office function, but I could do something along with that. So This is good for me because I'm the kind of person that remembers to put something in my calendar, and by the time I have my calendar open to put something in it, I've already forgotten what I'm supposed to put. So hopefully this can help make it a little bit faster. So all of the Google Suite apps have some pretty cool functionality in that you can see some of your recently opened documents and create new ones. So if I if I tap on Drive, I'm gonna get that terminology figured out one of these years. You'll see that I have a list of some recently opened files, and I can hit on this little caret to expand it and see more stuff. And then I can also see some more stuff here. Another thing that's cool too is I often use Google Drive to move image files between my iPad if I'm taking pictures on my iPad, and then my Chromebook. So I can go directly up here and say upload photos, and then I can choose where I want it to go, or choose which pictures I want, and then I can upload it straight into my Drive. So that helps save some time too. If I go on Docs, you'll see now I have some recent specific Google Docs that I've done, and I can create a new document or from scratch, or I can create one from a template, which is pretty cool. And the same thing with Sheets, and the same thing with Slides. So there's a lot of really cool stuff in there. So now we're going to shift into, actually we're going to shift into web clips in Safari. So if you notice on my home screen, I have something here that's called MS8052. Now this is not an app. We by no means have a budget to be coding our own apps for our school district here. This is actually just a bookmark. So in the Safari app, you're able to take a website that you might go to frequently, or even a bookmark, and make a web clip of it so that you can open it on your home screen. You can put it on your home screen and open it as if it were its own app. So if I press on the MS8052, you'll see that it's opening up the website in Safari on my iPad. And so this is a good function because we do this with a couple of things on the student iPad as well. I should probably link to the video I made about the student iPad preview because it talks about a couple of examples with the library pages and my page and some of that stuff. So if you wanted to make your own web clip for something that you go back to pretty frequently, I'm going to do this with Safari. Now, on the teacher iPads, you should also have Google Chrome on it. It's worth noting that Google Chrome, you cannot do this from Google Chrome. You can only do this from Safari, and that's because of reasons that Apple has for not wanting other browsers to do things on their devices. But if you notice near the top right corner, I have this little share button, and so I'm just going to tap on it. And you're going to see that it gives me all of these options. And we're going to talk later about how you can configure this screen as well. But if I swipe down a little bit, I have this option that says add to home screen. And I just need to press on it. And then it gives me the link. I'm actually going to do, a different website since that one's already done. So we're going to add code.org to the home screen. And you'll see that there's a title, which the title right now is Learn Computer Science, Change the World. We can change that part. So I just need to tap in here, and then I can X out, my keyboard's up, and I just want this to say code.org. Really simple, because it can only fit so much text on my screen under the app before it just cuts it off. So there's no use in having something that's really long. So something that's short and that's easy to identify and remember is really cool. And then I just hit add. And now I've just added it to my home screen with this cool little logo. So that's how you can add things. So the next thing, so we've talked about shortcuts and clips. So now we're going to get into centers, and I'm going to pull up my side view again here. Maybe I can shrink this down so I can have both side by side. Let's do that. Cool. So um, there are two different types of centers, and by centers I just mean it's kind of a tool or a place where you can access certain things. So there's something called the notification center, and there's another thing called the control center. And you can access those um, based on which part of the screen you swipe down from. So I'm just going to take with one finger, and if I swipe down from the center of my screen from the very top, we're going to try it. The one thing with the cases on these iPads is it reduces a little bit of the area around your iPad screen where you can swipe, so you have to be a little bit more precise with it than you would otherwise. But I'm just going to swipe down, and then you'll see this is what's called the notification center. And it's very simple. It shows the time, it shows the date, and it shows your notifications. So if you have an email notification or a calendar or a message or seesaw notification, you would see those here. It's very similar to your lock screen. If your iPad is off and you turn it back on, it's very, very similar. So that's basically, if I swipe from the left side of the screen towards the center, that brings up the notification center. If I swipe down from the top right corner, that brings up the control center. And I always just use as a visual cue, I always try to swipe down from where all the icons are in the top right corner, either where the Wi-Fi symbol is or where the battery symbol is. And it's the same thing. You just press and hold down a bit, and this is the control center. So there are a couple of things to note in the control center. So first of all, you have some quick options about do you want to have your Wi-Fi on or off? Do you want to have Bluetooth on or off? This function right here, where that symbol right there is for AirDrop. And AirDrop is a way that you can send files from one Apple device to another automatically, which I use this a lot at home with my MacBook. Is if I take pictures or screenshots on my iPad, I just AirDrop them all the time. And you can set that to do that too. If you're playing a music or a podcast or a video or something along those lines, this is the control center for that. You can play, pause, you can fast forward, or you can move forward a track or move back a track or something like that. Right here is lock screen, which just means it locks it in the orientation that it's currently in. So I don't want mine to switch into portrait mode right now, so I just put this screen lock on. So no matter how I hold my iPad, so I've got it held portrait, it's still going to be in landscape mode. Do not disturb. I only have that on because I have another iPad and an iPhone and a MacBook, and it drives me crazy if all the notifications are on, because then I'll get 4 dings for an email. Actually, I'll get 5 because my watch goes off too. So I always just have this on so that it reduces the number of devices I get beeps and boops from. So this part right here, right in this little rectangle where it says Jeff's MacBook Pro, this is something that you'll be learning about, or you'll be using a lot later when we get to the point where we have Apple TVs in your classroom. This is where you go to connect to your Apple TV. So my laptop is set up to work like an Apple TV right now. So I have this so that I'm wirelessly connected to it. And so when you go to connect to your Apple TV at school, you would press on this, and then you would see a list of all the Apple TVs you can connect to, and then you would choose the one to connect to. That's where this function is here. So if you're planning on using your Apple TV a lot in your classroom, I would definitely get comfortable with finding and using the control center, and then finding your AirPlay area where you can connect to your Apple TV. Brightness and volume are these two right here. And yeah, you can just slide them up and down. It's pretty self-explanatory. The last thing I wanted to indicate here, and I can't show this off again because I'm currently connected by AirPlay, is screen recording. And screen recording is really important. Um, I have it included in my student iPad preview video because it does exactly what it says. It records your screen. So this will be a really useful tool for you if you if you're planning on making tutorial videos or showing the kids how to do something as if on your iPad to model it for them. This function here allows you to capture all of that, which I think will be really useful. Um, the one thing to keep in mind is by default on the screen recording option, the microphone is actually off. So if you don't do anything to change that when you screen record, you're going to have no sound. However, going back to our tricks about long presses, which I don't think it's going to let me, it's not going to let me. Okay. But if you long press um, on that icon, you'll get a little menu with a little microphone, and you can press that to turn the microphone on. So that way, when you do screen record, you will have your voice on top of that. So that is the control center and the notification center. Hi everybody. So I'm recording this video separately because I realized in the process of showing you about screen recording that I didn't actually explain how that button got there because it's not a button that is there by default on your iPads. So you have to go in and add it yourself. So this addition to this video is going to be about how to add that button into your control center. And to do that, we're going to go to settings. So I'm on my personal iPad, so it's going to look a little bit different. So I'm going to just press outside of my home screen so I can see my settings app in the bottom right corner. And on the left side, where all of the different categories of settings are, I'm going to look for the one that says Control Center. And I'm just going to press on that. And then I'm noticing here, because I've also updated my iOS, so there is a thing you'll have to press before that says Customize Controls. So once you press that, then it will look pretty much the same. And then what you're going to see here is you're going to see a whole list of different controls or shortcuts that you can add to your control center. And you'll see that here is my screen recording one right here. And so to add it, you would find it down at the bottom of the list, and then hit the plus button to add it. So if I wanted to add guided access for some reason, I would just press that, and now you'll see it's at the top, and then I can press the minus to make it go away. There's also these 3 lines on the side where if I press and hold on that, I can reorder the order of what's on my control center. So if I move screen recording to the top and then do control center, you'll see that screen recording is now the first in that list of buttons, and then moving it back down, you'll see how it now is last on that list. So just wanted to add that to this video because I realized that during the training I neglected to show how it got there. I'm going to show you a couple more multi-touch gestures. So we've talked about some of them, like the control center, notification center, edit home screen, those kind of things. So there are other gestures that we can use as well. One is simply to bring up the dock. So the dock is this area right here. And when you're in an app, it hides. It's different than the dock on your MacBook or the shelf on your Chromebook or whatever Windows calls their thing. So if I go ahead and let's open Seesaw here. And that's open because I was doing a tutorial video. You'll see that there's no dock here. However, if you do a swipe from the bottom of your screen, so we talked about swiping from the top, now we're going to swipe from the bottom, And again, you have to be a little careful because you don't have a lot of edge space here. But if you do that, then you have your uh, dock right there. So if you wanted to switch applications and go to Safari, you would just press on Safari, then you can switch. And I can bring up my dock and switch again. Another reason why this is useful is for something called multitasking. iPads are kind of famous, tablets really in general are famous for really only allowing you to do one thing at a time. The windows usually take up the full screen. There isn't room for anything else. Um, but there are a couple of things you can add in to give you a little bit more functionality. So the reason why we want to be able to lift up our dock is because then if we want to have another window open up on our screen side by side, we have to drag it from the dock. So let's say if I wanted to do Safari, I'm going to click or I'm going to tap. I'm going to do this so you can see it. And I'm just going to, nope, that was too long. That was too long of a long press. Sorry about that. How do I get out of private browsing mode? Done. No. All right, whatever. Let's try it again. Bring up our dock. And then I'm going to press and hold. I'm going to drag it. You see how it kind of makes a little bubble here? I can just drop it. And now I have my code.org window open on top of my Seesaw window. I can also move it to the left side if I want, with where this little line is right here. If I just press and hold on that, I can move it around. You can't put it in the middle. It's one side or the other. Or I can make it so that they're side by side, because right now this is covering part of the Seesaw window. So having this is really good if you're working in something and you need to look at or get a quick bit of information from another window. But if I press and hold this and move it down a little bit, now I'm actually, oh, let's try it again. Let's try it again. Third time's a charm. I'm really struggling. Maybe it doesn't want to. Maybe it doesn't want to go side by side. Oh, you know what? Seesaw doesn't support side by side. That's why. So some apps just won't work with this. So Seesaw is one of them. Seesaw will only work in full screen mode. Let's find something that does work side by side. Let's pull up my calendar so y'all can see what I'm doing. Another thing is, so once you've set what your multitasking window is, you can pull it up again. You don't have to go back to the dock and drag it over. It's kind of just sitting there hidden on the side. So if I just swipe from the right, there it is. So now let's try going side by side. There we go. Do you see how the window moved a little bit? And now I can let go. And now I have two windows that are side by side. I can do a little bit of resizing. Right in the middle, there's this line right here, and I can press and drag. So if I wanted my code.org window to be bigger, I could do that. That's about as small as you can get a window here. Basically the same size as the overlay window. Or I can make my calendar bigger instead. I didn't want to make an event there. And then to get out of this, I just basically take from the line right up here, and I drag down again, and now it's back in overlay mode. So if you're the kind of person that needs to be able to access two things at the same time, which I'm definitely one of those people, that's how multitasking can help support that at least a little bit on the iPads. So we've talked about swiping from the top right, from the bottom brings up the dock, and from the right brings multitasking. So all kinds of swiping going on. If you also swipe from the bottom and you see what's going to happen here is I just kind of keep going. Like I press and hold till the dot goes up, and then I keep pressing. I can exit out of the app, or I can try this again. This took me a couple of tries when I was making my video here. There we go. You can see what's called the app switcher. And the app switcher is just a list of all your open apps. There's usually a ton of them because when you press the home screen to get at an app, you're not like quitting an application like you would on a PC. It just puts it in the background. Um, and so you can always come back to it later. This is also good to know because if you have like an app that's just crashed or it's not responding, you would want to get to the app switcher so you can quit out the application by just swiping up on it. So I'm gonna get out of Seesaw completely by just swiping up and making it disappear. And so that's another way. It doesn't really make a difference. I know Apple's come out a couple of times and said that like you really don't need to go through and close all these apps all the time because of how memory management works and whatnot. But it is good to know this just because you can switch from application to application um, and go back to settings or something along those lines. And if you do need to get out of something because it's non-responsive, you can swipe up that way. You can also double tap on the home screen to bring up the app switcher. So depending on if you prefer to swipe or prefer to tap to bring this up, whatever works best for you, there are two ways to do it. All right. So the last thing that I wanted to talk about is sharing. So generally speaking, if you're trying to get something from one app to another, or from one device to another, you're going to want to use the share function. And on the iPads, the share button is pretty much the same no matter what you're in. So we had talked about Safari a little bit earlier with this icon right here. That's what it looks like. It's just a square with an upward pointing arrow. And when you do this, it will bring up some app-specific ways in which you can either share what you have on your screen, or there's always some other kind of functions too. It kind of becomes like the three dots on your Chrome window. It's kind of the same idea. So you'll see that there's all these different options, and it depends. They change depending on which on which app you're using, but there are some that are kind of universal. So let's close that. You can see up here, this is AirDrop. So if I wanted to share this website onto my computer, I would just press on it and it would open it. It's really simple. I do have my messages app set up on here. I actually didn't think I did. So if I wanted to send something in a text to Mr. Patry, I could do that. And there are some other options here as well. So there's AirDrop again. I think this is kind of like up here is kind of like a speed dial. So obviously I'm sending stuff to myself pretty often. And then there's another AirDrop menu right here where if there are other devices in proximity, you can send those. I don't believe the iPads for the students are set up to really use AirDrop, but it might be something we could set up if it's something you wanted to use with your students. But I have messages, I have mail, so I could put the link to this website in an email message. There's notes, there's Zoom, Google Keep, Chrome, Seesaw, Gmail, Twitter. There's all kinds of different options here for what you could do. Now, some of them are things I would use. I would definitely use Gmail or Seesaw or Twitter or some of those others. Some of them I won't. I'm not going to use Apple's email client because I'm going to use the Gmail client instead. Or Notes because I would prefer to use Evernote, which is the one that I use for keeping all of my notes. Those kind of things. So you can actually customize this. So if I go back to the end of this list and swipe, where it says more, those three dots, I know those three dots are somewhere. If I just press on it, you'll see here are my favorites, AirDrop, messages, and mail, and then suggestions. So some apps you'll be able to share from one thing to another, and others you might not. So the suggestions may change from app to app. But you'll notice in the top right of this box, I can edit this. And now I can make changes. So I don't really want messages to come up. So if I just press on the minus and then I can remove. I don't really want mail to show up, so I can remove. I can add now the things that I want. So I'm going to add Chrome. I don't know why I'd want to share from Safari to Chrome, but maybe I do. Who knows? Gmail, Twitter, Evernote, Classroom, Seesaw, and maybe Zoom on there. So now when I hit done and I hit done, you'll now see how my menu has now changed into what I want it to be. So all the way up to Zoom, those are the ones that I manually set. Any other suggestions that it has will show up afterwards. Now, I can also, actually, some of these I can turn off too. They have a little slider. So I'm going to turn notes off and reminders and Kindle. So another thing that you can do is reorder them. So you don't have to, if you don't get the exact order you want, you don't have to press the minus and then, press all the other minuses, so then you can try to do it in the right order. These 3 lines right here, you can use that, and I'm just going to press with my finger and it picks it up, and I can move things around and reorder. Because obviously you're going to want the things you're going to use the most to show up first, so you're not having to swipe for them. So that's how I would do that. I definitely want Gmail to be first. I'm a little bit surprised that Google Drive doesn't show up, but I think it shows up on other menus, so that's fine. So I'm going to hit done, and now I've got this a little bit more customized the way that I want. Now, this bottom part as well, starting where it says markup print, yours won't have LastPass. LastPass is an app I've put on mine. It's my password manager. I can also edit these. So I can add or subtract all these different options. I don't really play around with this because I usually don't end up swiping down that far. The markup function is interesting because if there's something that you want to show the students on this website, I can just mark it up. And then now this is actually in a picture format. And I can use the markup tool up here. Let's see if it works. Oh, I think my stylus is off. So I've turned markup mode on, and I now have all of these tools where I can now start drawing things. And then if I wanted to share this annotated picture, there's my share menu. I could share it to Classroom if I'm working with older students. I could share it to Classroom if I'm using it with younger students. There's my Google Drive right there. So all kinds of different things that you can do with this. I'm just going to delete this. I actually don't want anything to do with that. I was going to show you one thing in Chrome. So again, that symbol is pretty universal. So if I open my Chrome browser instead, let's go here. You'll see that I have, there's my share button again. And I can do that. And, here's what I wanted to show you. So send to your devices. So sometimes you're looking at something on your iPad, and then you realize you really want to be able to look at it on your laptop instead. So send to your devices is something you can use. And basically any device that you're logged into with your Google account. So let's do this one here. Let's see if it actually works. Sometimes it doesn't, but let's see. Let's see. It usually happens pretty quick. But I would get a notification up here on my MacBook that, hey, this is a link that you shared, and then I can click on it and it will open it in Chrome on my laptop instead. So also a really cool thing, because I think I've talked to a few of you about creating QR codes as easy way for students to access important links and other things. You can take a website and you can create a QR code. So I'm just going to press on that option right there. There's a QR code that when you scan it will bring you to Wikipedia. And then if I want to save that image, I can share it. I can share it. And look, there's that same sharing box that I've been talking about with Safari, with Google Chrome. You'll see it in Photos, all those different things. So I could save this image, or I could upload it. Can I upload it? I can upload it into my Google Drive so that if I wanted to make a document that had the QR code in it, I could do that, which is pretty snazzy. But I don't actually want to make a QR code of Wikipedia, so I'm going to get out of that. So there's all kinds of other things to explore, and I definitely encourage you to take time to kind of learn about some of the different things that are on here. Your iPad should have all of the Google apps, Chrome, Gmail, Calendar, Docs, Drive, all that stuff. And then I think I also put the Stage app on there as well. I know a lot of you use the Stage app on your Android tablets for your document camera setup. You'll be able to replicate that setup with the iPads as well once we have that going by using the Stage app and connecting to your Apple TV. It'll be very, very similar.